Hey, welcome to Striving Artist. I'm your host, Arlene, and I'm so excited to be here at Saga 960 Studio. Thank you so much, Jyoti, for letting us hang out here because my guest is here to chat about his awesome career as a reporter, host, musician. We're going to chat about a bunch of things about him. Let's welcome Barry Davis.
Arlene, great to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have to say, this is really cool because you've interviewed me a couple times for your show.
Yes.
And I'm like, woo.
And that's how I feel. I'm not used to being interviewed, so.
Right. And I'm getting better at interviewing people, but you had been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah, I may end up throwing some questions at you as we go along.
No, we can't do that yet. But what I want you to share with us and the audience out there and the other creatives out there is, you have a big career. You've gone from reporting for the Blue Jays to your own shows now. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but just briefly, can you share with us how you went from working with somebody and now you get to create your own stuff, you get to create your own content?
Well, that's the interesting thing, and that's the part that I love about it the most, is when you are working for a major TV network or a radio station, they tell you pretty much who you're going to interview, how long you're going to interview them for,
right,
and basically the line of questioning that you're going to go on.
Oh, okay.
And I spent many years where I would do this really great in-depth interview with somebody, and by the time it hit the air, it would go from 10 minutes to a minute 30.
Oh.
And that's the hard thing, because a lot of times what gets cut out is completely out of your control.
Right.
So now having the control myself, I don't have to be penned down by parameters saying it has to be this long or you can't go in this direction or that direction. It can be a lot more organic, and in fact I don't even look at that as being an interview anymore. I look at it as just being a conversation.
Nice.
Just two people like us just sitting around and having a talk.
Right. That's really cool. And throughout that, I'm sure you've come across adversity, not only in the business, but maybe people outside, maybe people that you care about. Did you come across any of that? And how do you deal with stuff like that?
It's been, my entire life. I grew up in a family where my father was an entertainer for many years, but he became very addicted to alcohol and was an alcoholic, and that not only destroyed his career a lot earlier than he would have liked, but it also took his life. He was in his early 50s when he passed away. I was only 20 years old at the time.
Wow.
And, I was always looking up to him as the path I want to follow because I'd seen the talent that he had. But I had to learn a lot of valuable lessons on the way on how to avoid all the, the pitfalls that he had to go through.
Right.
And, I became relatively independent at a young age because of that. And I had a dream then. My dream wasn't to be doing interviews and being on talk radio. My dream was to be on stage performing as a musician. And, I was doing that part-time, but I needed to find a way to make money. As you know, the music industry, for most of us, is not a very, very fruitful kind of thing when it comes to making a lot of money. So I ended up I was working in a factory during the day and making music at night.
Cool.
And then I lost my job in the factory. I got laid off, and I had no idea what I was going to do.
Right.
And at that point, my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, suggested I go back to school. And here I was, 24, 25, going back to college, taking a radio broadcasting course.
Oh, wow.
And at that point I said, I'm not going in here just to kill time. I'm going here because I'm going to get a job.
Okay.
And I was very fortunate to get in a part-time job between my first and second year. And that job ended up being, a 10, 11-year career at the Fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I know you just mentioned you didn't want to interview or host, but you still went into that.
I did.
But was it because it was did you think I'm really good at this, which you are, or was it kind of oh, this is what I know?
Well, it's funny because when I was really young, I wanted to be on the radio or on TV, and I always used to listen or watch. How do you get there? How do you get to be on one of those people?
Right.
I'd go to Blue Jay games and I'd look up in the booth and I'd be like, how do I get in there? How do you become one of? Do you have to know somebody? I mean, is there? Can you apply for a job to be a broadcast? And when I found myself looking for something to go back to school for, my wife and I we're just literally going through a book from Humber College, and I saw radio broadcasting, and I went, wow, they have a course for that. I'm in.
Cool.
So that was when I'm going to do this. And it was a 2-year course, and as soon as I started getting in there, I'm like, no, I think I can do this, and I know I can. But it wasn't, you're out of school and here's your on-air job, right? I started by sitting behind a board like this, pushing buttons, and getting paid $8 an hour, working from midnight till 6 on weekends.
Right.
That's how it started for me.
Wow. So you basically it sounds like you've hustled your way to where you needed to get to, which I think a lot of artists out there, they're trying to figure out, like, how do I get to where I want to go? Like, this is my ultimate goal.
You have to go.
You have to be in the environment.
And that's the thing. Like. A lot of people, they have these dreams and they say, well, I really need to go for it. But they don't.
Right.
They think about going for it, but the actual physical getting up and going for it, you have to do it. You have to make your own breaks. You have to, it's nice to have people that can help you, but at the end of the day, you need to do most of that yourself.
Yeah, that's true. And let's say, like, for your personality, you're a go-getter. For some artists, they could be very introvert. For me, for example, a lot of people don't know or don't believe that I'm an introvert, but music has helped me get to where I need to go. Do you have any advice for those people that don't have that backbone? Maybe they could try something. Anything in your
well, that's
experience?
where that's where it helps to have somebody in your corner that is not introverted, that can give you either give you that push to go, or that can maybe open doors for you.
Right.
And the more people and I always gave this advice to students who are in broadcasting, but I think this applies to any walk of life: networking. And when I started networking, this was before we had social media. This was picking up a telephone and calling people and finding out people's addresses and writing letters and doing. Yes, we used to write letters in the old days, Arlene, okay? But now with social media, I mean, when it comes to searching out people that you want to be friends or follow, think about the people that are doing what you want to do. And every once in a while, you might be able to find someone that will respond if you write to them.
Definitely.
Right? And the more people that are doing the type of work you want to do, the more of a leg up you have, because there is a lot of who in this business. For
sure, yeah. And with that, when you were starting out, did you find mentorship? Did you find someone to kind of coach you along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I had been at the Fan for maybe about 2 years, and I wanted to be on the air really badly, but I kept being told by a lot of people that were doing the job I was doing is that, it never happens for us. We're going to be here, we're going to be behind the board, enjoy it. But I didn't buy that, and I didn't want to buy that. So I just continued to talk to people that were doing what I did, and just asking, not annoying them, but just, more watching what they do, how they go about their business. And I started taking that along with working on my own to try to get better at what I do. I had this studio that was available to me, and I was working overnights. So if I had an opportunity, I would take advantage and, just read things out loud and practice, how you'd ask questions to people. And I did a lot of that work. It's like being a musician and living, or, working part-time in a studio, right? You got to take advantage of that situation, right?
That's true.
You have everything there, so practice.
Right.
And that's what I ended up doing, and just started to get to know more people and volunteer to do anything. The first time I had a chance to do anything on air was when the radio station switched from being an oldies station, which is where it was when I was working, to being all sports, and that was in September of '92. And they were looking for someone to take a tape recorder, go down on the street in the corner of Yonge and Eglinton, and just start asking random people if they were excited about an all sports station.
Right.
And they call them streeters, and they're not a lot of fun, but I knew that was my chance to get on the air. So
Nice.
I did that, and that was my first time I heard my voice on the radio.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Basically, you got to be in the environment. You gotta put in the time, invest the time into getting better at your craft, and taking opportunities as they come and go. Now, I want you to just share with our audience more about what you're up to, the shows that you're actually creating yourself and putting up on your own.
And it's interesting because this was something that I didn't necessarily choose to do. I was thrown in a situation where after 14 years at Sportsnet, we mutually parted ways, and I found myself looking to do something new in life. And I knew I wanted to pursue music more, but again, still all these years later, I knew this wasn't going to be something that I could make a living out of.
Right.
So that was when a friend of mine said, why don't you consider doing a podcast? And I didn't even know what a podcast was. So I started to figure out what a podcast was. So we put together a podcast, and I still had all the connections in the baseball world. So we made it a baseball themed podcast. We call it Out of the Park, and it can be heard every Sunday. And that really started to move and go well. That gave me time to be able to pursue the music, and we have a Tom Petty tribute band, which I know you've been up on stage with me before,
yes.
called We Ain't Petty, and you can find us online at weaintpetty.com. And then about 6 months ago, I got this beautiful opportunity here at Saga 960 when they decided to start this all-news talk format. And I knew somebody that had been working here, and they said, would you be interested in doing a little bit of work? So I started just recording a show from my home studio and sending it here. And then a couple months later, they had the 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. slot open. So I've been here since March now doing the 4 to 7 show, and it's so much fun, and I get to do exactly what we talked about earlier, where I have musicians, I have athletes on. We just talk to people about their lives, and we give them the right comfort so that they feel more compelled to be able to open up. I don't want to talk about stats. I don't want to talk about how necessarily what key your song is in. Right? I want to talk about you as a human being.
Definitely.
And you know that firsthand because we've done that together before.
That's true. I know. Our interview was very nerve-wracking because you guys actually were asking really deep questions, and those that were listening were like, "Wow, those were really."
Well, you're a deep person.
I guess so. But I've listened to your show on my drives, and it's exactly that. You talk to them as if you guys are just having a coffee, and it's interesting because that's what podcasts are as well. Like it's a conversation, ideas are being thrown out, and it's really fun to listen because it's entertaining also. Because you have a fun banter, you and Michelle, and also your recurring guests or recurring people that come on the show.
And of course, let's not forget Matt McFarland, who
That's
does
right.
the podcast with me too,
the
right?
Producer.
And that's the thing. I mean, I always get the impression that people enjoy listening to something when they feel they're almost a part of it. And I felt that way when I did TV too. You want to be the connection between the fans and the athletes. And now I want to be the connection between whoever we are talking to in studio and the people that are listening. We want to make them feel that they're sitting in the conversation with us.
Definitely. That's how I feel like when I'm driving.
That's so sweet.
And at stoplights, that's when I tweet you guys.
Yes, I figured that.
But talk to us, like, what do you have in store for the future in terms of Out of the Park or We Ain't Petty?
Yeah, well, the band has been incredibly busy all summer long. We've been playing a lot of festivals, and once the summer ends, the festivals end. But we hope to start bringing our show to some theaters and maybe more clubs and stuff. The radio show is going to keep going from 4 till 7. We're going to continue to have a lot of great guests on the show. Cool. And as far as the podcast, I'm not going to give that up either. So right now, I'm just doing all this stuff. I'm my own business now. I work for me, and it's a lot of work, but it's a lot more fulfilling because I don't have to answer to other people. For sure. But the problem is, I have all these people that need answers from me now. So you have to totally change the way you look at things. So to me, I couldn't see it any other way. I would never want to go back to what I was doing. Awesome. That's really cool. And just before we wrap up, is there, can you name your top 2 or 3 things that you find have been essential throughout your career? Like, is it a team? Is it like your drive? Is it your family? Well, my family, number one, the support I've had from my family has been unbelievable, because there have been moments where, my wife could have very easily said, okay, be an Uber driver or do something, but you can't do this anymore, give up. Right. But she didn't. Right. So her support and the whole idea that you can't give up. Because there are so many times where people are this close and they're like, no, I can't do it anymore. And you have to follow through. Definitely. You have to follow through. You definitely need to have things to help support you while you're trying to follow through. But if you really see it and you really believe in yourself and you really have faith in what you're doing, don't give up. Cool.
Thank you so much. That's a great way to end our chat. This is Barry Davis. Make sure you guys check him out online, on his podcast, on Saga 960, and we'll probably check you out during the summer, or your future events.
Yes.
You ain't petty.
I want to see you at another show.
Cool. Excellent. Make sure you guys stay tuned. I've got that special tune for you based on our awesome interview with Barry.